everybody to the Gun Town Showdown update. My name is Nick Keogh, aka Pretty Hair. I'm here, of course, with the lead designer, the art director, and the community man himself, James, Chuck, and Josh. How you boys doing today?
Doing well, sir.
Doing good.
I'm excited. That was fun. I don't know why. I love the little like Western like. Oh yeah. All we were missing was a tumbleweed from that one.
That's right.
Oh man, what a fun video. And this is going to be a fun update. I mean, we got to see kind of a little sneak preview of some of the stuff today in the update show, but I think the big talking point is, of course, that Guntown rework now. One of the biggest structures on the map, Chuck?
Indeed, probably. Maybe next to... it's definitely equivalent now to some of the larger cathedrals.
It's sort of like sprawling, right? Where I think there's an argument that it's all one structure, and there's an argument that it's a lot of structures that are just connected.
Of ramshackle structures.
Yeah,
awesome.
Exactly.
Well, some of the new things in this update is going to include that Guntown rework, that Night Stalker bundle that we got to see, kind of a little fun intro of, as well as some HUD updates, which are always nice kind of things you didn't know you wanted until they were there, and then you're like, wow, this is actually really clean. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The Night Stalker bundle is going to be the first thing up. It's a cosmetic bundle. It's going to have that skin as well as the mount. And what else can we expect in, of course, the chicken.
And of course, yes.
Count Bocula.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Every time,
Is that a sneak
every
preview
time
of
we
the
talked
name
about the concept for him, I was like, he goes blah, blah, blah.
I love it, man. Every patch, these chickens, man, they give me. You keep on raising the bar.
He's great.
Somehow.
You don't mess with him.
Somehow you do it, and there it is, Night Stalker. So this is hunter skin, James?
This is a hunter skin. Yeah, she's got a stake dagger, so she's ready to just drive it in the hearts of vampires or cook some marshmallows or whatever you do with steaks. I don't know. She's
How do you
real
like your
cool.
steaks? Medium rare?
Rare.
Or rare?
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah.
There it is, though. The Night Stalker Huntress, I guess we should call her. Dog's rolling around. She's got her steak. I want to see that chicken, too. How do you self-down yourself to see a chicken?
You.
Oh, he knows.
There you go. Look at that.
Blah, blah.
Chuck wasn't lying. The splishy splash effects on your wine glass, too?
Yeah.
Juice. It's juice glass.
Oh, yes, of course, the juice. The warm
The
viscous
juice.
juice.
Yes. He's great. He's just such a good little chicken.
And, we went to some effort to make sure the fluid in the glass jiggles as he runs around
Some
with
amount of effort.
Yeah, he just spills it all over the place, actually.
Very good.
But the surface of the fluid, you see, tries to maintain.
I mean, Josh, as far as life
Parallel
and
to the
death
ground.
runs go, when you're a chicken, you're forced to kind of waddle so much when you're walking. I think he does a fairly good job at
It's true.
You know,
It's true.
keeping the
But
sauce
if he
safe.
escapes, he wants to have some juice left because he'll be thirsty.
That's right. All that running is going to make him thirsty.
And look how
certainly.
shiny his pompadour is.
Oh, he's great.
So shiny.
This is definitely an A1 chicken, and I say that, knowing that there are some. And he doesn't even look worried. I mean, look at that face. That's the face of a chicken that has no fear in its heart.
He knows he's special.
Yeah, he's a vampire. He's been dead before.
He's going to come right
And
on
he's
back.
just going to turn into a bat if he dies. Anyway,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, when he
So,
dies, he does turn into a big old bat. Fly away.
Well, speaking of big
Bat.
old bats, we've got one right here.
This is the war beast. It is a large vampire bat-like creature.
So what's the story of this bat? Did she befriend this bat? Corral this bat? Is this a bat that got
Chases his
turned
tail.
or the vampire turned into the bat and now she's just kind of tamed it and riding it around?
I think it's just a gothic creature she's tamed on her travels
Yeah.
through
Wow.
wherever this vampire hunting.
She
There it
tamed
is.
and captured it,
It's
know.
a
You gotta
neighboring
fight
island.
fire with fire.
Exactly.
There's the Mount emote there, the nice little screech that we got to hear from the cool intro video. Got a little coffin on the back. So not the horses in the back this time around. We've got the coffin in the back.
He looks pretty cool if you jump from elevation. So he pulls his wings out there. He doesn't
does his
glide,
little-
but he looks
Ooh.
really sweet.
He's almost got like a falling trail.
He's
there,
ready to
too.
glide.
Yeah.
Ooh, pouncing with the claws. James, you ever thought about making like something corny like this? Do like 1 damage if you land on somebody with claws out in front of you?
This is not pay to win, pretty hair.
That's right.
Maybe a knockback. I don't know. It doesn't have to be damage. It could be
Why
something.
don't we just give it a mini version of Thor while we're at it?
Why don't we just let it eat people? It's just,
But he can chase
Hey,
his
I've got
tail.
plenty of crowns on my account. I'd be
Yeah.
down. I'd be ready to go. ready to purchase this one. Speaking of purchase, Josh, how much can we grab this for, and how can we get access to this bundle?
Sure, this bundle will be available on all platforms when 18 arrives, and you get all 3 items for 1,500 crowns.
And the bonus stake dagger.
Yep.
Which we put in at the last minute when I was like, duh, we already have stakes. Like, let's do this and just throw it in there.
She obviously would have one, so it makes perfect sense.
That's fun. So the daggers are just like attached to the skins, or can you mix and match the daggers?
No, yeah, a skin can have a dagger upgrade associated with it. So, like, we introduced those in the last battle pass during the character progression.
I was gonna say, yeah, those real like
in one of the levels.
EDM looking daggers. I like those a lot. And I kind of like that touch. I mean, it's a nice touch for sure, because it may not be the biggest part of your gameplay, but it certainly adds that flavor. It gives you the taste of real premium content here. That's the Night Stalker bundle, guys. That's 15
flavor of real premium content.
That's what we're selling here, boys. There's the mount, of course, the skin and the steak and the chicken skin to boot. That mount special, very cool as well, the bat screech. But that does it for the Night Stalker bundle. Let's talk a little bit about some of these HUD updates that we are expected to be seeing. First one that I'm noticing is up there at the top of the screen.
Yeah, so we just tried to make the compass at the top a little bit more clear, so it's easier to call out your direction as opposed to, before we would sort of have to guess like, oh, 283 or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it just tells you. Now you know.
You just yell the number.
Yeah.
You just scream the number. What are some of the other HUD updates we want to be on the lookout for in this update?
Well, if you take a look at the mini map, you can see that little circle up there. So you can see the fog circle, and there's a marker on it. As you get further away from the fog circle, we actually have a direct line that's like, hey, go this way. That's where the fog is, just to make sure that you know where you're oriented on your mini map in relation to the fog, especially if you're further away. This is real handy.
Yeah, it gives you an indicator for the actual meter distance between where you are and where you need to be.
Well,
and the mathematically nearest point at which you can re-enter the fog.
I like that, actually. Gives you kind of a cool little like meter indicator that's otherwise like you kind of don't really know like how far like things are away from you, and I don't know, stuff like that I always like to kind of know. Good stuff though. The male tank, he's up there on the hill. Our teammate is not quite with us. Do we have anything to help us track him down?
That's right. So if you're not looking at your teammate, his nameplate will actually stay.
If you're lost in the desert, male tank, male tank.
His nameplate's gonna stay on the side there, so you just have like a better idea where your teammates are in relation to you at a glance, as opposed to like having to go to the mini map and look at that and figure out where they are. Now it's just on the side of your screen. You know where to turn. You can look at them. You can go to them and stay together.
Awesome. So you know where your teammates are. You know your mathematically quickest way to get back into the circle, what direction it is, as well as a more refined compass to be able to call out enemy directions to the degree very, very quickly here, and all your teammates will be able to respond, and they will definitely start working with you more than they have in the past as a result.
So that'll be really helpful, if I'm playing with Josh and we all decide to go crossing and then he drops Lumberfall, we'll be able to
only drop crossing, please.
Yeah.
We all have our one tricks.
Yeah.
Right. I am myself. I'm a Lumberfall man. I was born there and I plan to die there as well. So Here we go, guys. That's gonna do it for the HUD updates, though. Let's move on to the real meat and potatoes of this update, the Gun Town Showdown. That's the name of the update, and we can see it just as we kind of crest the horizon here. This is a big one, Chuck.
Yes. So the idea here is that Guntown was kind of a little bit of a low traffic area, and it was around the forge, give you places to loot, and then afterwards, if you need to get away from the fog, the catapult is just to your northeast or southeast, and you can catapult away.
Awesome. So is this building in the center kind of the biggest rework to this area, or has there been new chest placed around, or some of the other buildings going to be a little bit different?
We mainly reworked this area itself. Just to provide this ancillary connected building system to give you more places to loot. It's also really fun gameplay. in our testing here, it's really neat because
It looks like you could end up like Scooby-Doo and a lot of people
Yeah.
yeah, oh
these
definitely.
I
And you'll
think-
hear people running around all around you, and
Oh man.
it's,
I think you could just straight up play hide and seek here, and it would be fun because there's lots of little areas and secret paths and stuff like that, just so you can get around and maybe if you can know this better, you can know this area better than other people.
Sure.
can, right? Which is
Definitely.
really nice.
Well, let's head on in. I want to head into this big building here and kind of take a look, see at what's inside. Thankfully, we've got our dodge roll cooldown turned off for that purpose. And
so yeah, so there's a lot going on here. This
Wow.
is like with the Ice Haven Forge, this is a multi-level forge, and it's pretty maze-like in here. So you've got a lot of options of how to attack people or how to evade people. There's definitely a lot of varied gameplay ways to tackle.
yeah, a lot of
this.
up-down potential in here too. It looks like can you get basically everywhere with I like to call it like the wheelchair accessible route with a ramp, or do you need some type of vertical mobility to kind of get
Yeah,
around
there's
it?
no place that you can't get to.
How would Brandon Stark fare in this building?
Better than Winterfell.
Okay. He
He's
wouldn't
stuck-
be stuck in the mud.
He's stuck in the courtyard, man.
Tough stuff here, but Chuck designs his buildings, of course, with young Brandon in mind, so he will be able to get up in and around.
And this is the lower tunnel entrance.
I like this. How high
You
up
kind
do
of
we go?
sneak
on this?
in from
How
below.
how further above the forge can you get? Because I kind of saw like a balcony that didn't have a ramp to it that I couldn't see immediately. Anyway, that's why I kind of asked that question of like, can you get around this without some type of blink or something?
I think you access that particular room from a
Man,
bridge
this is a
outside.
maze. This is
Yeah,
cool.
it's
I
a bit
like
of a
this.
maze.
there's lots to learn here, which is really fun.
Yeah, this feels really unique. Definitely a way you can kind of move
You
around.
definitely can have some good tense moments. If you get hurt in here, there's a lot of places to escape to.
Is our cameraman trying to find where?
I think he's looking
found
for that
it.
ledge.
He's found it.
There it
Yeah.
is. That's probably
But
it.
it's nice, right? Because it's got sort of that like classic level design where you see a place and you're like, I want to get there. How do I get there?
Yeah.
Right? And then you can find it. So there's that sort of fun little experience too.
So this is, I like this. It's definitely like it's a small little catwalk, but it does provide you probably some of the best lines of sight in this
Yeah,
entire
I mean that's
building.
a pretty serious ambush angle from above the forge there,
Yep.
and from this secondary area.
And then God forbid someone lobs a firebomb in there. And you're,
Yeah, or a potion launcher.
yeah, you're in trouble.
So that's what I'm saying, man. Them Night Stalker claws, little 1 damage, surprise! Ah!
Do the bat leap.
Nobody's too upset by that. And anything else, Chuck, that we haven't quite seen here on Guntown that you want to mention before we go?
I think that's a pretty good version of the tour.
Awesome. So basically, guys, this gigantic rework to the Guntown. It's now the arena for Showdown. You can have expect much more chests here. I think it's definitely a much more rich, populated area. And like anytime there's a big rework to an area, that area is going to be very, very fun and very, very action-packed for the next week or so, or week or two before people start to get their jitters out. And I go back to One Trick and Lumber Fall. Josh goes back to One Trick and Crossing.
No, he'll stay at
All
Crossing.
things kind of return to their balance. I think it's. Would it be defined by your experience here in Guntown? Would you ever leave Crossing at this point, Josh?
I would give it
You
a
two
shot.
set in your ways.
I'm
Did you
open.
become a Crossing man when that saw its rework?
He's got a timeshare
Yeah,
at
actually-
Crossing, and
Yeah, I do.
Invested. You're invested in the area.
and some real estate in the area.
Understandable. Understandable.
Crossing's always been somewhere I've gone, just because there are a lot of like broken buildings and a lot of open windows and stuff you can shoot at from up above, which has been nice for me.
Yeah.
Because I like to be able to like
Okay.
peek a little bit because I get blasted out in the open. I can't survive at all.
yeah.
But Crossing is definitely cool. I'm really ready to check out Guntown though.
Yeah.
That could maybe be an alternative for me.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to the balance section, James. I think
Let's
one of my
do it.
favorite parts of the patch. First thing up on our docket, I'll have numbers tunings today, but the first one will be hitting the sword.
Right, so we reduced the sword damage by 11%. There were just too many cases where you'd have like a lot of armor, right? Maybe not full, but you'd have a lot.
Yeah.
And it would just be able to get that kill on you one shot earlier. So we moved those breakpoints down. There are going to be more cases if you're at full resources.
Okay.
The sword's going to take a little longer to kill you. And hopefully that'll give you a chance to, respond to the person with the sword, use some abilities, stuff like that.
I gotta say, yeah, I've been playing a lot again recently, and I'm playing with my buddy Alternate. I think you know who that is. And Nothing strikes fear in his heart than when he hears the sword swing. Like, he doesn't really get worried about a lot of situations, except for when there's a sword in his face. So I was like very respectful of swords. Docket is seeing a damage increase, however. Pistols going up by 10%.
Right. So, sort of the core combat at high level play is very peak based with those projectile weapons, right? And so that high burst damage, even if their long term like DPS or throughput is relatively low, they're really powerful. That's not going to change, but we do want to make sure that weapons like the pistol or some other ones that we're looking like the SMG can stand up a little bit better in those situations. So just a little bit more damage, and if they catch you on their terms where you're in the open, they should have a little bit of a better time killing you. That said, if you're playing really well with a projectile weapon or a class weapon and you're talented into it, it's still going to be more effective than something like the pistol.
Well, that's always the cost, right, of that projectile versus the hit scan. And it looks like hit scan is kind of the theme of some of these changes. Burst rifle, assault rifle, and the SMG all seeing that 10% damage increase as well, kind of for the same reasons.
Same exact sort of thing, right? Like they're gonna lose when you're peeking against them, right? Because they're consistent damage and a projectile is burst damage. But even if they're in the open, it was still a little too much in the favor of the person with the projectile.
Oh, this next one hits my heart. Not too bad of a nerf here, but the longbow damage is being reduced by 6%.
Yeah, I mean, it's more than you'd expect because the longbow hits pretty hard.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It's I think it's around like 50 damage that we took off, but just longbows, especially if you got a headshot, it was just doing too much of your life.
I think the fully charged talent's like 30% on there, so there's a lot of ways to get a lot of extra damage.
Right, and that's the thing is that this will affect those more because we're taking the base down. Right, so if the base goes down by 50, well, you're running that 35% talent.
Less to scale.
Exactly. Now you're going down by like 65.
Gotcha. So not the only class weapon being hit today. The throwing axe is also seeing a damage reduction by 7%.
Throwing axes hit really hard, and they're real big. They're real big. So if you're in a situation that's like mid to close quarters, the other person has a throwing axe in a corner, what do you do?
Tough.
Yeah. You got maybe you have a concussion bomb to knock them into the open,
in that situation,
but it's just kind of a bad place to be.
Right, and just some extent, right, if you're the guy running around with the knife at the gunfight, you trap somebody in that corner, right, that payoff, I think, should be there.
Absolutely, but even if you weren't in that situation, if you got the hit, right, like, the throwing axe is harder to use than a lot of other weapons at mid-range.
Right.
But when you lob it, it was a little too rewarding.
Gotcha.
So just toned it back a little bit, 7% off the throwing axe. Hopefully makes it just a little bit more in line.
Gotcha. So I hope these changes, or I think these changes kind of go together, these next two, LMG and the Gatekeeper, which is the big bad minigun. I like that name for that. And they're both seeing 15% damage increases.
Yeah, so the LMG was actually comparable to other weapons in terms of DPS. So we pulled it up a little bit for sort of the same reasons as the SMG and the burst rifle. It only exists at Legendary. And we do want to make it powerful when you do find this weapon. And it chunks pretty hard on a per shot basis. It's around 150 damage.
Sure.
So it's pretty chunky for a hit scan weapon.
Cool.
The Gatekeeper was already the highest DPS weapon in the game, but there are a lot of situations where you were playing properly, but the other team could still, they could still out DPS you, even though you were playing it right.
Meaning you have your range limitations. So
exactly.
You pay a movement speed cost as well while firing as well?
You do. So basically the design of the Gatekeeper is if both players are in the open and they're in the Gatekeeper's range and the Gatekeeper is already spun up, there should be no competition because of all of the
conditional
spin
situations.
Exactly.
Movement speed, range,
spin up, movement speed, range, stuff like that. When you're indoors and you're playing around corners and the Gatekeeper has to move and spin up, you're going to demolish him. I mean, just throw a firebomb at the guy's feet, right? And that alone is going to cause a big problem. So the Gatekeeper will now do a lot of DPS. It's around 2,000.
Gotcha. Wow, that is a lot. And I think, keep in mind, guys out there on the field, you got to be like, was I in his wheelhouse? Was I in the best situation for my weapons, or was I in a good situation for her? Like, don't get frustrated right off the bat. You got to think about what did he have to do that to me?
That's kind of what realm is about, right? It's like, what's my loadout, and how do I set up situations where my loadout is better than their loadout?
Yeah. And that's kind of the fun, being able to identify that stuff. Very, very
Right.
good. That does it for the weapon changes, though. We're going to move on to abilities. Deploy turret. The damage of this ability is going down by 10%.
So turrets are really great for like controlling where chickens move, or controlling an area, or being a nuisance. But if you just sort of let a turret chunk at you, it was a little too effective.
Okay.
We still want them to be something that you're gonna have to clear out. When you notice a turret, you should shoot it and you should kill it, because it's gonna add up. But we toned it back a little bit just to make sure that if you weren't maybe perfect and you weren't getting it after 1 or 2 shots, it wasn't as incredibly costly.
Sure. So soar will be the next ability, seeing a hit, and the fly speed will be reduced by 10%.
Right. Soar's advantage is its versatility in movement. Like, you can get anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? What our thinking is, if you have that, maybe it shouldn't be quite as fast as something like Heroic Leap, right? So we toned back the speed a little bit. Should be a little easier to hit someone using Soar if they're out in the open. But, you still have the value of, like, okay, I can fly out of a first-story window and back in through a second-story window.
Yeah, that's
you still have that
very true.
amazing versatility.
Very
So we
true.
just want to make sure that there's some costs associated with that.
So much you can do with that ability for sure. However, dodge roll, not quite the same category, and we'll be seeing a cooldown reduction by 4 seconds at all ranks.
Yeah, so dodge roll, we just wanted to get people using it a little bit more frequently when they had it.
Tough to compete with that withdrawal, baby.
It is. At the same time, though, right, if you can use dodge roll more often, then maybe it gives you more options.
Definitely.
And I think
in the super early iteration of the game, like legendary dodge roll with the when you're running
it
a
was
hunter,
nuts.
it's like 2 or 3 second cooldown.
Yeah.
And so that's like, it became competitive. You're like, well, I can just cover so much ground. I can really move around a ton with this ability.
Right, and now I think dodge roll, the hope is that it takes a spot where it's like a good response, right? Like, somebody uses an ability to knock you out of cover, you can use dodge roll. Okay, now they use a movement ability to chase after you. Well, your dodge roll's back up. You can use it again. You're not using it constantly, but whenever something happens, you should be able to dodge roll soon after to respond.
I think with all the versatility Soar has, dodge roll really doesn't. So having a low cooldown definitely makes it more usable. Ice block will be next up on the docket, and it will now heal the player for 150, 300, 450, and 600 over its duration.
Right, so the problem with ice block was you'd be like, I need to buy time, and you'd freeze.
Yeah.
And then the other person would just line up a headshot. Now there's some gameplay there, right, where you can use different timings of when you break your ice block, so maybe they don't know exactly when you're going to do it. But we also added some healing, just so there is a little bit of a chance to refresh a little bit and get a little bit stronger. We will be keeping a close eye on the ice block and ghost walk combination, because that has been insane in the past, and we want to make sure that you can't chain those.
Gotcha.
But hopefully this brings ice block back on the meta, because it has been something that is very good. That was very good, right? So there's definitely potential here.
And now you kind of have, like, if you got no other sustain options as a mage, right, you can just have this and just be popping it kind of as you go, looting around. If nobody's around, it doesn't really matter if you're burning your cooldowns in that situation, but
right.
having a little option for the sustain.
I also do want to mention an ability that's never been super popular in the metagame is Ice Wall, and hopefully we'll have something for that next patch.
Okay.
He says hopefully, more like we're already making something.
More like we play tested it yesterday.
It's in the works.
Yeah, we're looking at a replacement for Ice Wall. There are some people who like it, but generally it's just so situational.
Yeah.
You really like...
I think it comes down to a little bit like that map can be very big and very open, right?
Yeah.
If you're not in a city fighting someone, it's hard to like really block off an area.
Exactly. And I think if you really put a lot of effort into it, you could make Ice Wall as good as some other abilities.
Yeah. Just more niche.
Or you could just get better with those abilities, right? Like
Yep.
so
Definitely a cost there. We'll be seeing one reduction to a rune, the only rune in this balance patch, the Chicken Revive rune. The reduced revive time reduction has been moved from 10 seconds down to 5 seconds.
Right, so we just wanted to bring it in line with the talent. So if you didn't have the rune and the talent, previously your chicken would come back in 5 seconds, which is like
Yeah, tough.
Yeah, that's like you don't even get to shoot them before
It's
they're
two
back into a
turns
player.
around the building. They just
Yeah.
have to
Exactly.
jump out a window and jump in another window, and
Pretty
then there's a
much.
dude in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Did you see a chicken come through here?
10 seconds is still pretty quick.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you are running the town in the
Definitely.
rune, it's still going to be good.
And there's
but
still speed. There's still health. There's still
yeah,
ways.
if you do go full chicken, you're going to be hard to catch. But we didn't want it to be completely a non-factor.
Right.
And with the rune and talent, being chickened was kind of a non-factor. You just had 3 lives.
Definitely. I definitely feel that. That's going to do it for the balance changes, though, guys. We are going to move on to the bug fixes. And, Josh, this is your territory, so I'll let you kind of just get through and rattle these bad boys off.
Yeah, we have a lot of bug fixes associated with this update. We're going to talk about some of the bigger ones this update that have sort of been around for a little while that we've seen reported a bit. So we'll start off with fixed an issue where there were inconsistencies with actions that would break stealth. So sometimes you would end up out of stealth when you didn't really expect to.
Right. So the general rule of thumb is that stealth should break when you use an ability or fire a weapon. And
Gotcha.
we sort of cleaned that up.
Okay.
We fixed an issue where shields would prevent overkill damage from affecting health. So if you had a shield that blocked 500
Pop your
damage,
level 1 shielding shot
Yeah,
and get hit by
someone
a
hits you
sniper
for
headshot.
1,000.
You're just like,
yeah, just ignore all the damage. It went straight to shield, so that'll be fixed. Shield will still be powerful, of course, but
Definitely.
You
not.
can just overflow over the shield amount into your health pool.
Yep.
perfect.
Fixed an issue where players would experience invisible lockout timers for enemy runes. So if an enemy looted
What does that mean?
or crafted a rune, it would look like you could pick it up, and you'd be spamming
I
E,
think I got
and
this
it's
the
not
other
doing
night. I'm like,
anything.
what am I doing wrong here?
It's because the old lockout timer that used to apply for enemy loot for 5 seconds was still effective, but the
Gotcha.
lockout timer wouldn't be there. So now the timer's been removed altogether. If an enemy crafts a rune and you want to
can
go
yoink
steal it, just yoink that thing.
Right, but you still can't steal runes from your allies
Exactly.
for that timer.
Yes, just enemies. Fixed an issue where players using the gatekeeper would experience lower movement ability while not firing.
Yeah, there were some cases where the slow could get stuck on, and we just cleaned that up.
Cool.
Yeah. Fixed an issue where the catapult would occasionally play its launching animation when a player enters relevancy of the catapult. And I think if you've used a catapult, you've probably experienced this, where you walk up to it and you
And
get
it
it.
suddenly goes.
Yeah, it just fires, and then you're just sitting in it, and you're like, "What is that?"
That definitely happened to me once. It did it, and I was just like looking around,
Yeah,
like,
did someone else?
am I
in here
blind? Did
with
I
me?
not see a guy here? Like,
Yeah. Fixed an issue where the longbow would play the firing sound at the impact location. I drew an MS Paint diagram so I could properly explain
Yeah.
the situation.
okay.
You can no longer shoot longbows out of your longbow.
Yeah. What was happening is I would be standing here, and a guy up here would shoot his longbow, right? And the noise would play,
Yeah.
and then I would hear the arrow would hit right here next to me, and you'd hear so it sounded like it came over my shoulder, but the
Yeah.
guy's actually up on the hill over there.
Oh no.
But there's supposed to be this like doing, sound that
Gotcha.
plays when the arrow hits where it's going, right? So anyway, the sound effects have been
It took
cleaned up a
Josh
bit.
about 15 minutes to explain that, and he kept making that arrow noise like the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty critical to the explanation. Thank you very much for that, Josh.
We were
Yeah.
just stuck in a meeting room with Josh for like 15 minutes going, doing.
Sound effects are very important.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn
My man should work in audio.
Let's see. Last here, we fixed an issue where players could not remount after being eliminated in certain situations. And to be more specific, what was happening is if you were in the process of vaulting and someone actually finished you off as a chicken, when you were resurrected, you'd come back and you wouldn't be able to mount again. And so
Okay.
that's been addressed.
Gosh.
I actually think you weren't able to vault either, so we'll check with
Okay.
the
Yeah.
programming
Either way,
team on that.
there were some
too.
issues if you died while vaulting. So.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Been cleaned
Cleanups
up.
in general. Very, very excited for this patch, guys. PTS, when can we expect her?
The update I was given most recently is that we will have it up soon.
Awesome.
So keep an eye out.
Yeah, soon TM, guys, of course. Thank you all so much for coming out and sharing these nice little update
thanks
notes
for
with
having
us.
us.
Absolutely, guys. This is going to be a good one. I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are up tuned. Josh, the PTS is going to be up very, very soon. Hopefully today we can keep our fingers crossed, but we'll see. Higher powers are at work here, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you all in the next one.